I didn't realize I was trapped until the day I felt strangely calm while everything else was falling apart. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday morning, the kind that usually passed without leaving a mark. I was standing in line at a small coffee shop near my office, staring at the menu I already knew by heart, when I noticed my hands were shaking. Not from caffeine, from something deeper, from the quiet pressure I carried everywhere, even into places meant for rest. At the time, I would have said my life was fine. Stable job, predictable routine, a few people who checked in on me. Nothing dramatic, nothing obviously wrong, and yet every day felt like I was running late for something I could never quite reach. I worked in a glass building downtown, the kind where you could see everyone but never really know them. My desk faced a window that looked out onto another building, almost identical to ours. Some days I wondered if people over there were staring back, having the same thoughts, living the same loop. My days were organized down to the minute. Morning emails, meetings, lunch at the same time, usually eaten while scrolling through news I didn't even care about. Then more work, more checking, more adjusting. I told myself I was disciplined, focused, driven. That's what I admired in others, so I assumed it was good. But beneath that structure was something tighter, a constant mental grip. I couldn't relax unless everything felt controlled, every task completed, every message answered, every outcome anticipated. I obsessed over details most people didn't notice, and when something went wrong, even something small, it stayed with me for days. I remember thinking this was just how responsible adults lived, that tension was normal, that calm was something you earned later after you'd done enough. The first crack appeared in a moment so small I almost missed it. A coworker named Daniel sat across from me during a meeting. He was new, quiet, the kind of person who listened more than he spoke. Halfway through the discussion, our manager asked him a direct question. Daniel paused, looked down, and said he didn't know the answer yet. The room went silent for a second. Not long, but long enough for me to feel uncomfortable for him. Then something unexpected happened. Our manager nodded and said, "Okay, let me know when you find out." And the meeting moved on. That was it. No consequences, no judgments, no tension lingering in the air. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. All afternoon, my mind replayed that moment, not because of Daniel, but because of what I felt. I realized I would never have answered that way. I would have scrambled, guessed, said something, anything, to avoid admitting uncertainty. The idea of not knowing felt unsafe to me, like exposure. That night, lying in bed, I asked myself a question I hadn't asked before. Why does not knowing scare me so much? At first, I brushed it off. Some people are planners, some people aren't. End of story. But over the next few days, I started noticing things I had ignored for years. How I reread messages before sending them, sometimes 5 or 6 times. How I avoided conversations where I couldn't predict the outcome. How I replayed old mistakes in my head, trying to fix them mentally, as if that did anything. I called it thinking, but it wasn't thinking. It was fixation. The discomfort grew quietly, not as anxiety exactly, more like a low hum I couldn't turn off. One evening, after work, I found myself walking longer than usual instead of heading straight home. I didn't know why, I just kept moving, letting the noise of the city replace the noise in my head. Somewhere along the way, I realized I was tired. Not physically, mentally. Tired of managing everything all the time. That's when a strange thought crossed my mind. What if I stopped trying to control this feeling? It felt almost irresponsible to consider. Letting go had always sounded like giving up, like losing discipline, like becoming careless. But something inside me was curious. The next day, I tried something small, almost invisible. I sent an email without rereading it a dozen times, just once. Then I closed my laptop. My heart raced for no good reason. I expected something bad to happen, a misunderstanding, a mistake. A correction. Nothing happened. Later that week, during another meeting, I disagreed with someone, but instead of preparing the perfect response in my head, I spoke honestly, simply, without cushioning every word. The room didn't collapse. No one seemed offended. The conversation continued. Each time I loosened my grip just a little, I felt exposed. And each time, nothing terrible followed. But the real turning point came a few weeks later, on a weekend I had planned down to the hour. I was supposed to clean, run errands, catch up on work I'd brought home just in case. Around noon, I realized I hadn't started any of it. I was sitting on the couch, staring at the wall, feeling an unfamiliar mix of guilt and relief. My phone buzzed, a reminder for something I had scheduled weeks ago. I looked at it, then turned the phone face down. For the first time in a long while, I didn't obey my own plan. Instead, I stayed there, letting the discomfort rise, letting the urge to fix, adjust, optimize scream in my head. And then, slowly, it softened. That was the moment I understood something important. My obsession wasn't about success, or responsibility, or discipline. It was about safety. Somewhere along the way, I had learned that if I thought hard enough, planned enough, controlled enough, I could protect myself from disappointment, from judgment, from regret. Obsession had become my armor, and like all armor worn too long, it had started to weigh me down. This realization didn't free me instantly. It didn't change my habits overnight, but it changed how I saw them. When I caught myself overthinking, I didn't scold myself. I asked, what are you trying to protect right now? Sometimes the answer surprised me. Fear of looking foolish, fear of being misunderstood, fear of realizing I didn't actually know what I was doing. Once I saw that, the obsession lost some of its power. It wasn't the flaw, it was a response, one that made sense once but no longer served me. Over time, I practiced allowing small imperfections, saying I'll get back to you instead of forcing an answer, leaving tasks unfinished at the end of the day, letting silence exist in conversations without rushing to fill it. Each act felt wrong at first, like stepping out without checking the weather. But slowly, something unexpected happened. I felt lighter. Not happier in some dramatic way, just less tight, less guarded, more present. I noticed other people differently too, their pauses, their hesitations, their mistakes. I stopped seeing them as problems to solve and started seeing them as human responses, not so different from my own. The world didn't become easier, but it became softer. Looking back, I don't think obsession is always the enemy. Sometimes it's a sign of care, of depth, of wanting to do well. But when it becomes the only way we feel safe, it quietly turns into a cage. The strange thing is, the moment I stopped fighting my obsession and started listening to it, it loosened its grip. Liberation didn't come from letting go completely. It came from understanding why I was holding on so tightly in the first place. Now, when I feel that familiar tension creeping in, I pause, not to eliminate it, just to notice it. And I ask myself one simple question. What would happen if I trusted myself a little more and controlled this moment a little less?